Joe, Mike, and Todd build assets online. There's a new drop shipping guru in the house,
Yo.
Todd, and we're going to talk to him today. Todd recently had a pretty sizable exit on one of his stores. What was the amount, Todd, that you got?
It's 245.
Nothing to sneeze at. Nothing to sneeze at.
No.
And yeah, we're going to go today over Todd's journey, what he's doing now, how he got to this point, and I hope you guys enjoy it because you guys seem to always like these interviews.
Absolutely. So, yeah, Todd, welcome on the show. I guess we got to start by doing a little intro. And so, for clarity, you're not actually, somebody we ever worked one-on-one with. You had a store partnered with our cousin. And so it wasn't until recently that we got to talking and, hearing about kind of your store and all that. So why don't you take us through, how that all came about and how you got started?
All right. So basically, me and your cousin started. We started in private label FBA brand, and I think it was 2020. And we were just shipping products from China to Amazon, and we ended up making, I think, a few grand on it. But it was just a nightmare of a business model, and our money was always tied up. So after like the third or fourth batch of products, we were just like, listen, high ticket's working. Why don't we just build a high ticket? We take this money, we'll build a high ticket store, we'll put it into ads. So I think we built this store in May of 21, and I want to say we started running ads by the end of May, and I think we made our first sale within the first week of running ads. And this was, remind me, this was also the peak of COVID. Well, the Amazon business was the peak of COVID. This was still coming off COVID. So we started it with like crazy back order times and like just a shipping nightmare. So a lot of the sales we made in the beginning ended up being like super far out back orders. So then we just, after that, like we thought we had a winning supplier off the beginning, and we're like, oh, we're never gonna have to do anything again. And then we were just like, all right, let's just get back to testing suppliers. And that's kind of what set off the journey.
Yeah. So 2021 was like not necessarily the peak of COVID, but it was the peak of the shipping nightmare of COVID.
Yeah.
So for anybody
like
that wasn't
backlogs.
Yeah, for anybody that wasn't drop shipping at that time, I mean, maybe they remember this just from ordering stuff in regular life, but there were just some huge supply chain issues because, things had to get cleared from China and then shipped to the US, and they were like shutting down the ships. I don't even remember exactly what
it was the ports. I think the biggest
ports,
excuse we got from suppliers was that they couldn't get appointments at the ports to get their products.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. There were just huge backup staffing issues at the ports. And yeah, I mean, we went through that as well with just because it was still kind of the COVID frenzy of people ordering a lot of stuff. But now it was just harder and harder to fulfill those orders. But do you feel like having that kind of fake win in the beginning gave you some momentum? Because
yeah, for sure. I mean, like even if the order did, I don't even remember if the order stuck or not, but it put, I think it was a 6 or 7K order, but it put 7K in the bank account, and we were just like, all right, like let's work with this. And so like if nothing else, it just put money in the bank account.
And one thing I do have to commend you on compared to some other people our cousin has gone into store partnerships with, is you actually seem to have a much better handle financially than a lot of some of the others you have. Just from talking with you, you seem like you were quite stingy in the ad account, let's say, and it wound up paying off in some big ways. So you told me before you never spent more than 2K on ads.
Yeah, I mean the reason being partly had to do with me seeing like what was going on in the space with the back orders. But I remember you said I was stingy with the clicks, but I'm stingy with everything in business. So it was like I remember seeing back orders that agreed to wait and then capturing their payment and then them canceling after that. And I'm like, shit, like that was a 6K order. We just lost 3% on that. Yeah. And then I was like, if we do this too much, we're going to be maxing out ad spend, spending thousands of dollars a month, and then losing that 3%. So at that point I was like, we're only going to accept like up to 10 back orders for this supplier, because that supplier was also pushing out back orders. So like we had to call customers and be like, oh, it's actually going to be longer than you expected. They're like, oh, forget it, cancel it. And so like I guess I was just stingy with everything. But yeah, I don't think we ever went over 2 or 3K a month on ads.
Yeah, I mean, just that point, I feel like a lot of people didn't even realize, especially during that time, where I mean, we saw people go under because they were just taking back orders like crazy, and then not even just thinking about the fact that when you do a refund, you're going to lose that processing fee, and how
It's
that
such a
could
little
affect.
thing, right? It's only a few
Yeah,
$100s, but with 10 orders, now you're down $1,200 for nothing, right? You spent the ads to make that order. So it was like probably not something that you have to worry about too much these days. But back then it was a huge part of the business, especially because orders were rolling in because people were shopping online all day.
so how did you wind up overcoming that?
We had to find new suppliers that had products in stock. That was the biggest issue. It wasn't finding suppliers that can make sales. It was finding suppliers that actually had the product to ship.
Hmm.
And so what we did is we found, like, our safe haven was a supplier in Canada who was like, they were actually getting stuff. Like, it wasn't USA. It was like a Canadian supplier that was shipping to the USA. And they just, I guess their ports weren't as backed up.
So was it you calling suppliers, or was it Jared?
No, it was me.
So you basically were doing everything. So I feel like calling suppliers, I think, is something people get a little bit scared about, and they have like hesitation sometimes to just get on the phone and call. But was it for you like, all right, I'm seeing that these back orders are causing an issue. I'm gonna like find a suitable replacement. I'm just gonna call them immediately.
It was driving me crazy because I was like, if these suppliers had product in stock, I could be making money hand over fist. But the fact that I keep taking these suppliers on that can't ship out orders, now I'm wasting money on them. And so I was just hell bent on finding a supplier that would actually fulfill the orders we were getting them. And I think that's the difference, is that like I was just so grateful to find a supplier that was actually where like I would capture the order and then I would be able to send out the shipping info within like a few days. It was groundbreaking for me.
Yeah, and honestly, that drive to call new suppliers, I think, is actually a really important quality that, again, people don't necessarily have. And even in our own business, like to this day, there's like we just acquired a new supplier on this store's been around for 6 years, and you know, Joe and I were on vacation one time in Europe, and we saw this supplier, and this was years ago. This had to be like 4 years ago at least. And I tried to acquire them 4 years ago. I couldn't get in. And only last month or 2 months ago did I finally get in with them. And it was because there was like a frantic situation where we had like a big order. It was like maybe a 12K order, and we were on the verge of losing it, and we couldn't find a suitable replacement. And it came back that this is the supplier that had the right, specs to fit the customers, whatever. And so I just pushed through it. I got through just the levels of bureaucracy, and we finally secured them. And out the gate, they wound up being a huge supplier for us. And they'd been in the space all along. So
But I guess in that situation, it's like, you had an asset to offer them, right? You had the sale that was already made. So that's how you get in. But your cousin told me something when I was calling suppliers that really stuck with me. And it's like, one supplier, you might call 100 suppliers and maybe 2 of them make sales and 1 of them works, but one supplier could change your whole business, right? Like, you don't want to build a business off one supplier, but one supplier could fund the operation while you find other one. Like, it could change the whole business.
yeah, I mean, that's 100% true. Because, yeah, you're no matter how you do it, it's unlikely you're going to have, 10 suppliers and they each make you $1,000. It's like you have 10 suppliers. All right, maybe one makes you 5,000, 6,000, and the others are kind of, smaller. And that has to do with, how good are their margins? How easy are they to work with? And like all those factors that go into it. So, yeah, I mean, for you, like, how many suppliers did you wind up having if you were running, only 2K in ads?
Like, I've told you this before, I was really quick to cut suppliers. So we probably tested maybe 10 a month consistently for like 6 or 7 months, possibly even more. But how many suppliers did we win on? We won really big on 2 of them. Like 2 of them were really solid suppliers. Maybe 3 or 4 more were like supplemental suppliers, like basically what you're saying, where they carried like maybe 30% of the revenue.
So you had a store. The store was operational for a year and a half.
1 year, yeah. May of 21 is when we made our first sale, and then May of 22, May or June is when we closed on it.
That's actually insane. So what was the multiple that you got?
Not entirely sure. I want to say it was around 25 to 28, maybe 2.5 to 2.8 yearly profit.
That's crazy. Because I mean, yeah, you ran a store for a year and then got paid out for another basically 2 years. So, yeah, I mean, like the whole testing and killing supplier thing, like I'm personally not a huge fan of, and the reason for that is because I've just seen over the years, like I've had suppliers that maybe for a year I like neglected them, or I don't know, something was wrong in like the way that I was running ads to them or whatever, and something clicks. It could even be external, like another supplier, or sorry, another ecom store selling them goes out of business or something. But all of a sudden, after a year, the supplier starts selling for me, and then like I'm gonna scale it up from there.
Yeah, I
So
mean, we noticed that a lot of suppliers we saw other stores making sales for in the future, and it's like I was kicking myself for it. Like, damn, I probably should have just given them a little bit more attention. But I think we were just on a churn and burn kind of program.
well, I mean, it is a interesting strategy, and it is like I almost want to call it like a long tail type play, where if you just there's going to be some suppliers that out the gate work well. There's going to be other suppliers that you kind of have to figure out how to make them work, and
Right.
that's with
Once you,
ads.
yeah.
But also, like, were you doing anything special for your product pages? Like, if you're getting in all these suppliers, that's a heavy work rate for who's ever uploading the products.
Yeah, that was the first thing I outsourced. It was the first thing I got was a product lister, because I realized that the way that we were doing it wasn't sustainable if I was listing all the products.
Yeah, so you were just basically having this guy or girl just churning out listings all day, every
Yeah,
day.
there was a lot of them. So we hired an agency, and a Filipino agency, nothing expensive. But they probably had 3 or 4 people working on our store all the time, and we didn't outsource the customer service stuff until like probably 8 months into it. So yeah, that was one of the last things we did, which maybe I could have done a little earlier, but I just like to be involved in the processes.
Well, yeah, I mean, at that point, like, I don't know, it seems like such a sleek operation where you're running 2K in ads, and obviously you're spending some money on product uploads and stuff, but like that's so much profit to be had there. Were you
Yeah,
like hesitating, like I don't want to outsource this and pay them, and they're not going to
you
do
know
as
what
good
it
of a
was? The
job?
products were actually pretty straightforward. Everything the customer needed was on the product pages. Like there were manuals and stuff, and the people knew kind of what they were getting. And so they were really just calling, "Do you have this in stock?" And then it was like, "Yeah, okay, I want to place an order." It was never like really like customer service intensive stuff. Like I remember taking calls, finishing a surfing session, getting in my car, seeing a call from a customer, then just calling them back and closing the order. It was like, dude, nothing beats that.
Yeah, yeah, those are the good old days
Yeah.
where it's just grinded. I mean, yeah, making sales on the phone to me is a underrated aspect of
I
this
mean,
because
especially when you're doing something you really love. Like you come out of a jiu-jitsu class, for example, and you see like a customer called, and you're like, all right, I'll call them back and close that.
were you doing like extensions? Like you would be able to see if it was somebody calling to place an order or somebody.
Yeah, yeah. Extension 1s and 2s. Those extension 2s, they're never fun, but
Yeah, you come out
part of
of
the
class,
game.
you see an extension 2, you're like, oh.
Yeah, like that'll have to wait until tomorrow.
You see there's a voicemail, you're like, I'm not. Do I listen to this right now and just
Yeah, so that's mainly what we got the customer service employee for. And now that I
they were
think of it, we may have got them a bit earlier because of the back order stuff. So the extension 2s, like they handled the back orders for the extension 2s.
Yeah, and that's usually how we advise people to kind of outsource stuff. Obviously, you're splitting the phone extensions and basically having the employee that's going to start handling that stuff handle existing orders first, because they're going to learn, number one, how to talk to customers and just learn your products
Hmm.
by dealing with people that already bought. So it's not like it's a high pressure sales situation.
Right.
So, Joe, what do you have to say about this?
I don't. I'm curious where he got his instincts from. Did you have parents or something that taught you to be financially conservative, or was it literally just you seeing other people messing up?
It was probably a little bit of both. It's more so that I just wasn't like, I hate losing money, honestly. So like even when I invest, I'm always waiting for huge dumps before I buy into stuff, even though it probably doesn't matter in the long run.
Mm.
But yeah, I just hate losing money. So that's why, like, I said I cut suppliers early. Sometimes it wasn't like a good thing, but it was like, I didn't want to keep dumping money into suppliers if I couldn't tell. And also, I think you guys know this too, that like once you get a winning supplier, you know what you're looking for, right? Like, when you're making sales, if you can get in touch with someone on their customer service team and get the order processed same day. Like, there's little things like that you want in a supplier.
Yeah, that's definitely something you get a feel for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I think it is that quality of really hating to lose money is what contributes to a lot of success. There's a book by, I think it's like the founder of IBM, and it's called Only the Paranoid Survive. I think that's a statement Joe can really take to heart.
It's a gift and a curse.
Yeah, without a doubt, dude.
Are you paranoid, Todd? You seem like a pretty relaxed guy with the surfboard and the.
Listen, I do everything I can not to be paranoid, but I definitely skits out. I don't love the state of the world as it is right now, or how it's been the past few years. But I try not to get too caught up in that stuff anymore. It's not making me any money. So.
Well, you're living on Long Island, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
not a very good place to have to retreat from.
No, the hope is that we never have to leave, bro.
I mean, that's the hope, but
You can go right to the Hamptons.
They could take out the city, New Jersey, whatever that is. We could just stay on the island, and then we're good. But yeah, I have plans. I'm working on some stuff right now, but I have plans in the future to go down to South America because it's just more conducive to the life I'm trying to live.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably conducive, tax wise, and obviously cost of living is. I mean, that's the digital nomad appeal, right? You can go to South America. I don't know if you can go to Colombia or what, but
yeah, it's never been about making millions for me. It's always just been about time freedom and location freedom to an extent.
And again, I think that's a very important quality. People get too caught up in this bullshit of the ecom guru with the private jet, and that's the vision people buy into, and that's the vision people think they're going to achieve, and that kind of compounds into their decision making, where they're selling these back orders and they think that they're the friggin' ecom king, the ecom don, and it just puts you down a bad path where you're overlooking financial smartness, I'll say, financial intelligence, in order to get closer to that vision of being the ecom don. And that's that's what puts
tough
you
when
on.
everyone sells it. Everyone sells that image, right? So I think it's funny because when I look for advice from like gurus, if you will, or just coaches in general, I'm looking for guys that aren't selling that. And then that's kind of how they're legit, right? Is if they're just like living a normal life. They're not selling private jets, like Lamborghinis, stuff like that. I'm like, all right, like this is kind of more in line with what I'm looking for.
Right, because that type of stuff, there's not often is there like actual nuanced advice when you're watching those types of videos. It's just a lot of surface level stuff that, yeah, it's meant to draw people in, and people associate the status with, oh, okay, they know what they're doing, when it's something that's very easy to fake these days. You go on Turo, you rent a Lambo for $200 for the day. You get a friggin' I don't know, fake suit, fake watch, shoot a video.
Let's say, for example, that it's not even fake. Let's just pretend that all the gurus out there aren't fake, and maybe well, actually, let me take that back. That's one way that it could be misleading. The other way that it could be misleading is that you have people like Mark Cuban who obviously know how to make a lot of money, and obviously they have more knowledge in certain areas. I mean, than us, and than other online marketers that are similar to us, but they don't understand the nitty-gritty details what it takes to actually succeed at the level that they're not at, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that the people making real money in this world aren't, flexing Lambos to sell a course. The guys that are making real billions, the hedge fund managers, whatever it is, however they're making it. I think they don't want to be flexing it.
I guess what I'm saying is that we in some of our previous episodes we poked fun at like some of Mark Cuban's advice, and I feel like sometimes, even though he's legitimately knowledgeable, not faking his wealth, he doesn't really have anything good to say about doing what we're doing here, which is starting, like, I guess, a lifestyle / better than your job business from your mom's basement.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he was shilling NFTs when NFTs were all the rage, so we can't forget about those things either.
Yeah, and
not to talk that he is Mark Cuban at the end of the day. I'm not saying that he doesn't know things. Of course he does.
No, yeah, we've spent a few episodes shit talking Mark Cuban because he made a video about, like, why would you buy a course on dropshipping? If somebody's selling you a course, why wouldn't they just be doing the thing themselves?
Be smart, guys. Be smart.
Yeah,
something like that.
It's tough, man, because dropshipping gets such a bad rap because there's so many subsets of it, and the majority of the subsets are scammy. But like something like high ticket dropshipping is it's a sustainable business model. Like, if you do it properly, there's ways to fuck it up too, but if you do it properly.
Yeah. Well, so also, like, so if you sold the store in a year, what was the trajectory of revenue, right? Like, was it just steadily going up, or did you have like a peak at a certain point?
Yeah, I think we went up for the first few months. We peaked, came down, and then we were I think we sold at an all-time high. I think the months that we were selling, like the last 3 months, were all-time highs. Thing is, though, it was always the sale was always where we started. Like, it's always what the plan was. And I think that's just because I saw you guys doing it in the beginning, and I was like, shit, that's so cool, right? Like, that you could build an asset and sell it that quickly. And so from the beginning, it's probably different than a lot of people that start high ticket. We knew that the plan was to sell.
Interesting. So, like, was there a certain point that you felt like, okay, now is the time?
It's a good question. I think it was when we both decided, like you said before, I was doing the majority, 99% of what was being done for the store. Jared initially invested. And so I think it was at the point where I was like, I'm done growing this. I'm not willing to put in more effort to grow this. It's like, it's probably better to give it to someone who is motivated to grow this from where it is now.
Yeah, because even the timing of the sale is a very important thing, because they take into account the trend of sales, the trend of profit. And it's like a stock, right? You want to buy low, sell high, right? So it's like, yeah, if you're not willing to grow it, you're not willing to grind it out, you really should be thinking about, okay, I want to sell it soon and be able to kind of jump on it as soon as you kind of enter.
Yeah, but tracking that, if you think it's hard to buy a stock low and sell it high, it's 10x harder to figure out, when the business is high and low. But yeah, I think that's a massive part of it. But what I didn't want to do is just let it burn out and fall into the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that can happen if you're not putting the time and attention into it. And
I think once you stop calling suppliers, you should consider selling, because eventually, I don't know. I think, or unless you're doing other things like building out SEO or building out other processes. But I think the minute you're not calling suppliers, you should consider exiting.
Well, I would push back on that a little bit, just because in our, like the store that we have now, we hadn't really acquired a new supplier in a couple years. We were still continuing to grow the revenue.
Yeah, I know.
And
I still to this day don't understand how you guys did it. But
because at the end of the day, let's get into this a little bit. Were you doing like text ads a lot for your store or no?
no.
So there you go. So like that's a little hidden growth opportunity potentially for a winning supplier, right? If a supplier is working and you even have a list of converting terms or whatever, doing text ads for that brand is an easy way to grow the revenue, etc. And even like we do a lot of SEO as well. So I don't know if we got the traffic graph built in here, but our traffic has, like, this year compared to last year, has our traffic gone up, what, 50%, 100%, Joe?
I don't know. I don't pay attention to these things.
It's something
Went up
substantial.
I'll tell you what went down, our conversion rate.
Our conversion rate is in the absolute toilet.
Yeah, but if your traffic's up, 100%, then at least it's a trade-off.
Hold on, I'm gonna try to get a screenshot from last month.
But yeah, I think that's one of the bigger things. And so when we sold the store, that's what I told the guy. I'm like, listen, we've built out some great suppliers, and I think that the next step of this would be to build out the SEO. And I don't want to do it, but if that's something you're interested in, I think that should be the first order of action.
Right. I mean, suppliers is obviously, it's like one of the, between ads and suppliers, those are the two biggest factors for quick growth. Right. So like if you're keeping your ads stagnant, you don't want to spend the time tinkering around trying to get it to 3,000 a month, 5,000 a month, etc. Then yeah, if you're not going to call suppliers either, then you're going to enter into this stagnation phase.
Mm-hmm.
So, if that's how you're approaching it, then
yeah, I think our best supplier was 20% margins too. So I just didn't want to get too crazy with scaling the ads, because there wasn't so, like, those are good margins, but there wasn't so much to compete with.
Right. So like you were doing a range of revenue each month. So you said sometimes we get into six figures, but like what would be the low point?
It ranged. Like some months we would have, 20K, 30K a month. Maybe profit. Like I think we had 2 negative months when we did the numbers for the sale from the whole year. But overall, I mean, there were some months we profited 2K and there were some months we profited 12 or 15K.
So why do you think that was?
I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it, to be honest with you. I guess it's a combination of, like I said, like there were some suppliers that didn't make a shit ton of sales, but they made sales that were extremely high margin or like extremely high revenue. And so I think sometimes, like some months, we would just get 2 or 3 of those, and they would be really good.
Yeah. So I don't know what Joe's got on the graph here, or on the.
I just took the screen. You want to see the traffic and the conversion rate.
And now you're flexing sales. I don't know. Yeah.
Listen, I don't know how to work this Shopify dashboard anymore. I feel like
they keep changing. I don't know. Everybody's got to keep changing everything. Google's changing stuff. Shopify's changing stuff. Leave it alone.
You got to show the investors something.
That must be it, dude. Like Shopify, one day they changed the logo from green to blue. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, I mean, you say your conversion rate's down, but your sales are up, and I think that's all that really matters.
Yeah, our conversion rate is in the toilet. Nobody should listen to us. But yeah, over 1.4 million sessions this year.
Well, this is the thing that Mark Cuban was going on about, that we talk about a lot, is that some guy was like he was trying to sell like a water bottle, not a water bottle, like a fruit infuser for like a fruit infuser water bottle. And he made all these blog posts about like fruit infusion into water and like recipes and things like that. And then Mark Cuban asked him about his conversion rate on Shark Tank, and he's like, it's 1%. And the point I always try to make is that how are you going to have even a 1% conversion rate when you have such like top of the funnel traffic about fruit infusion recipes and like, you know what I'm saying? So I always harp on that, and it blew my mind that Mark Cuban rejected the deal for that reason.
Yeah, I don't know what your guys' profit margins are on that, but with a conversion rate like that, it's crazy. Like whatever numbers you're bringing in off that, it's just, I don't know, that's crazy.
Well, a lot of it we're not paying for.
True.
So that's the whole thing. Like if you make with the high ticket, what people don't understand is, okay, if I would make $2,000 on a product, just flipping us to the TikTok view, if I'm gonna make $2,000 on a product and I make a bunch of articles that have varying levels of intent. So like in that fruit infuser example, if I'm posting recipes that involve using a fruit infuser, like the conversion rate is probably gonna be pretty low. But if you're not paying for it, then it doesn't matter what the conversion rate is. So, but instead of a fruit infuser, you're selling something that you're going to make $2,000 on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't give a shit if it takes 10,000 visitors for one person to buy. It's not costing me anything, and the payoff is huge.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, that's definitely, don't sleep on the SEO. Run the ads and then build out the SEO.
Yeah, but I mean, for, like in your case, when you're sitting on something that you could sell for, nearly $250,000, it's like, do you want to spend the time to go and learn SEO and put more time into it just to have some potential payoff in like 6 months?
I guess it depends. Yeah, I guess it depends on what your situation is. Full disclosure, I was doing the majority of the work, so I didn't want, I didn't want to put in more work. Yeah, it wasn't a skill set that I was really interested in learning at the time, but it's definitely good to learn new stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's like, I think it's really important for people to get that first sale, no matter if they sell themselves short. And that's kind of what we did.
That first sale is what set it off. I remember exactly what I was doing. Like I remember I was watching an Islander game with my buddies, and we were talking about how much we hate working and shit. And this was like my first, I don't know, my first peek out of the matrix, if you will.
That's when the wire hit, or that's when the guy?
No, that's when the sale came in. And it's funny because I remember we had Tidio Chat running, and he hit up the Tidio Chat and he's like, hey, do you have this product in stock? I've been looking everywhere for it. And like, without even a second thought, I was like, yeah, we have it in stock. Like, just place the order, because I didn't know, obviously I don't recommend doing that, but I didn't know. So I was like, yeah, it's in stock. And then the next day I had to reach back out and I was like, oh, it's not in stock.
So that was the guy that bought the site?
No, this is the first order.
Oh, your first sale.
Yeah, the first sale
came through. You remember?
Oh, okay. Yeah. No,
I'm saying like getting the first website sale completed, like the first asset sale.
Oh yeah, you guys have done so many, man. It's just, I geeked out on it, so I can only imagine how more would be better.
I mean, did you find it to be stressful at all?
The guy that we were working with was like the coolest guy in the world. And there were like 2 or 3 prospects that we were thinking about selling it to. And something just resonated with this guy. Like, he just seemed like he was interested in growing it. He was just the easiest person to deal with out of the 3 of them. And one of the other guys, it's funny, one of the other guys offered us a bunch of Ethereum if we went with him instead of the other guy. And at the time, Ethereum was like $800 or $900. And so it probably would have boosted our sale like 30 or 40K if we would have just done it and held the Ethereum. But we ultimately didn't go with him because the other guy was just way cooler.
Yeah, it's tough to play the shoulda, coulda, woulda games. Theoretically, all right, if you hang on for it. Like, I remember this wasn't the first site we sold, but it was the first site that we made. Like, the day after we did the switch, where it's like they start getting the money from the sales. I remember I I got into a plane and I was doing a chat and I secured like a really big sale. It was like a $12,000 sale. Somebody bought like, I don't know, like a large number of products, and it was like a $3,000 profit sale. And it just went to that guy.
It's tough, man. It's tough.
And yeah, it's tough, but at the same time, you know,
hear this
that's
actually.
just,
I don't know what the profit was on the sale, but I was still signed into the Shopify account for the month following. And at one point, and we were selling high ticket products, like some of them were super high ticket. And at one point, I want to say it was an 89K sale came in. And I know that it was like the profit margins were tough with that supplier. But like just seeing that 89K ka-ching, I was like, what? And then I got signed out of the store and never saw it again, which is probably better for my mental health.
Yeah. I mean, you can't play those games of like, oh, you know, I could have got this, I could have got that. I feel like you just got to take the dubs and run.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. It's easy to play, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda games. I didn't build another e-com store after because, you know, there was all the non-compete stuff that's involved in a sale. But I always think about it. I always think like it would be easier than learning a new business model to just go back and build another store. But I think we did it pretty well.
It is tough because it's like, I mean, I feel like we only have one dropshipping store left. Obviously, it's a pretty big store, and you know, obviously, we don't want to. It's tough. Like once you get like high volume of sales and you have many stores, it becomes very, very challenging to run all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you know, it's like so easy.
Right. It's really weird how that is. Cause like if you can outsource operations properly and like you can do these things, it's like a business owner who's running like a construction website, for example, not a website, construction, like a contracting company. They would call you crazy for saying it's hard to run multiple e-com stores because, you know, they're managing hundreds of employees and they're getting bids on, like, there's just so many more moving parts.
Yeah. The stress level.
Yeah.
You know, this guy doesn't show up to work. This guy breaks the jackhammer or whatever.
Right. My dad does consulting for an alarm company. Like they do like AV and security installation. And he's like, when I do the numbers and the books, it's like, there's so much more. He's like, when I helped you with your numbers, he's like, there's like 3 or 4 things that you have to focus on to just make sure everything is running smoothly.
So that's interesting. So your dad helped you with the like putting together the books for the sale?
Yeah, I have to give it up to my dad. He's not a finance guy. He's not like a CPA or anything. He's just a rational, like he just knows business. And I remember I was like, I'm making these sales, but they're back orders and some of them are going through. He's like, you got to figure out, you know, which ones you're making money on now, when you're going to make money on the back orders. And, you know, just kind of, he's like, put it in an Excel sheet and just figure out like a real landscape of your numbers. Cause I remember being super stressed out about it. Like, how do I determine when to stop taking sales? And he was like, just put everything in an Excel sheet. And that way you could see. I remember I had like every order and the back orders were red and the ones that went through were green. And like I had it based off like by supplier. So I knew if one order was going to get pushed out further or not. But yeah, that was massive in the long run.
Well, so even with the like when you're going to sell the store, right, you got to present, all right, this is January, February, March.
Yeah.
I see you laughing. I mean, sometimes that could be a challenge with the stores. So
What
like,
a
how
mess.
did you?
My advice would be if you ever plan on selling the store, or even if you don't, just put it in QuickBooks or something, because like whatever makes that process simpler. I probably have 4 or 5 Excel sheets that like throughout the whole year of the store, and they're such a mess. Like that was the hardest part of the sale. Was
QuickBooks makes it worse.
Does it? I've never used
100%.
QuickBooks, but I've heard that there's just like, I don't know, man. There's got to be an easier way. I know there's softwares you can use.
I have a pretty good Excel process that my friend helped me with. Basically, you just export all of your. Well, it depends how you're doing this, because QuickBooks, I feel like QuickBooks is only good for like doing your taxes in a way, like you know exactly what comes in and what comes out. But you could do stuff in Excel where like you export all of your bank transactions and then you can like put them into separate like sheets and then label them like cost of goods and all that. And you can have it all like just filtering to where it just makes sense, and it almost makes it look like QuickBooks, but in a way it's just so much faster because QuickBooks just like
Yeah,
if
I've never used QuickBooks, but whatever your guys' program costs, man, it's worth it just for that Excel knowledge and just that, because losing track of your numbers is a big no-no in this business.
And it's difficult. I think people, like we've tried to hire accounting companies to like help us with the books, and it's like, oh no, we don't do this.
yeah, we've
No
gotten
one
turned
can do
down.
it. Only you can do it. Like I remember there were so many custom little caveats in my Excel sheet that like only made sense to me. Even when I shared them with your cousin, he was just like, what even is that? And I'm like, I know, and this is the only way that this runs smoothly is like I could see it from an overview.
And yeah, a big problem is, you know, especially with the back orders and all that, you're taking the payment, let's say in January, but maybe you don't get charged for the product until February, March, or you take the payment in January, maybe you do a refund in March. So how do you factor that into, like, is if I did a refund in March, does that factor into my March profit and loss, or is that part of the January profit?
So confusing, man. And then you do it like through accrual accounting, and it's different because when you sell a business, they want to see it through accrual accounting, and it completely skews your numbers and makes them different. And
Right.
yeah, it's definitely a process that you want to get on top of before you're doing 6-figure months.
Yeah, or just even keeping clean books. If you're not considering selling yet, as long as you have clean books going from month to month to month, you can pounce on selling the store a lot quicker.
Yeah,
versus,
and you just have a way better understanding of your business.
Yes. And again, people go under because they're not taking a full accounting of their business, which seems pretty obvious and simple. But again, for dropshipping, yeah, you can get, a little hypnotized by taking a back order. You have $6,000 in your account. That's not really $6,000. You're gonna owe, $5,000 of that.
Yeah, it's
days of the
monopoly
month, so
money. I mean, we were definitely big on keeping a lot of money in the account. Like we always had a certain amount of money that we wanted to have in the account at all times in case of a doomsday situation. So I think that's worth noting as well. When you get to a certain point, don't just start pulling all the money out of the account and spending it.
Exactly. Yeah. So if anyone watching has questions for Todd or us, definitely shoot them in the chat. Toby said, "How are those cloud backlinks working out for you guys?"
Cloud stacking.
Well, I just started. So yeah, I just started. I built out a stack for our e-commerce store this week. It was a lot of work, and yeah, I just started indexing it. So probably know in like 30 to 45 days, 60 days. We have this really stubborn page that we should be ranking for, like top 3, top 5, but I don't know. It's been giving me a lot of problems. But yeah, we'll see. It's been working well for some of the smaller sites I've been using it on, that's for sure.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, so many of these SEO strategies, it just takes so long to implement. And,
I'm kind of at a low with it, like mentally right now, because I spent so much time like learning the cloud stacking, and it's like very exciting. Like when you're learning it, you're going through all the videos, and it's kind of like I'm in like a consumption mode and very high energy, and then doing the work is obviously I'm like got my head down doing it. But then the part about SEO that always sucks is, all right, now I gotta wait.
I feel like you can almost forget about it after you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
2 months later, I'm not even interested anymore.
Yeah,
you just wanted to say forget about it. Digital Cash Flow said, "Congrats, Todd."
Thank you, Digital.
Yes, congrats. Game Troll says, "Where do you see yourself in 3 years?" In Medellin.
Yeah, man, South America. Just getting out of the matrix of this Western society.
It is still West.
Yeah, I know, but it's different, man. It's a different lifestyle they live.
I got to be honest. South America really scares me.
Why is that?
I don't want to get my like organs harvested.
No, man. You go somewhere like Costa Rica, and it's like, dude, it's all Americans anyway. You go somewhere like Tamarindo in Costa Rica, and it's just all Americans.
I always just hear shit about people getting like mugged. Maybe that's really Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, we
But-
actually, I went to Medellin like 2 months ago, and Cartagena, which is both Colombia, and I could definitely see that stuff going on down there. So,
My friend got kidnapped in Mexico
dude, it's one of the most dangerous places in the world, apparently.
by the cops. Like he was like he was at a wedding and he brought like a drink like 2 steps away from like the resort, and then as soon as he did, the sirens came up, get in the car, and they drove him around, took all his money, and then like let him walk back, but he didn't even know where he was.
Yeah, don't wear jewelry down there and stuff. I remember my grandpa texting me when I went down. He's like, "Don't be doing anything that could get you in trouble." He's like, "Even the police will take you." I was like, "Come on, it's all right, Pop."
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
no,
saying.
I agree, but at least I mean, at
Like,
least
all
you
right,
know,
wear
at least you
jewelry.
know about the danger there, bro. Here you gotta, you know, you end up paying 10% in inflation and 40% in taxes, and home prices in Long Island are up like 400% in the past 2 years. So, you know,
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe Long Island is the problem. You can go out to, I don't know, go out to God's country somewhere, Texas. You can be strapped. You can have
Yeah.
your jewelry.
yeah, there's no beach though.
Hey, hey, you big beach
I think
bodies.
beach is I think beach is essentially, yeah, we spent some time in the desert, and it felt just not real. It felt like I was living on Mars.
How far do you live from the beach?
15 minutes.
All right, go out surfing. Come back, make a sail. You're embodying the take it easy lifestyle.
Can't
I
beat
mean,
it, man.
if you're, I can't imagine if you weren't surfing, what that would do for your paranoia.
Dude, if I wasn't surfing, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
I tried surfing the other month. It's difficult.
It's a learning process. It's like jujitsu, though. I'm by no means good at surfing, but it's, you know, being able to stay calm in a dangerous environment. It's like that kind of thing.
It's the only thing about it is, I mean, I tried it once too. It was really hard.
hmm
It just feels like you're doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, but then once you get it, it's like really rewarding. You know, it's like once you ride a wave, it's rewarding. And like I'm saying, I'm not good at all, but you know, it's like addicting once you succeed in it a little bit. Like getting a sail.
Yeah, I can see that. I could see
I
that.
had your cousin doing it in Costa Rica.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he was having fun.
paddleboarding.
Yeah,
The Costa Ricans.
massive. He was on like a big 15-foot log of a board, and he said he fell off of it, and like the wave came. He's like, it hit me in the face. Like if you could imagine, Jared, it was so
Yeah.
funny to think about.
Also with like the ocean, I kind of like skeeve my feet touching the bottom. I mean, ocean maybe less than like a lake,
I don't know.
because you don't know what's there. Could be a crab, it could be a needle.
Yeah, but you go to Costa Rica and the water's clear blue, man. It's different than here.
I'm just saying, you're surfing and the
No, I
Hudson
know
River.
it's not clean here.
Yeah.
It's murky.
Yeah, so you never know what's on the bottom. So
Yeah.
you need that paranoia prevent you from
Don't
getting
give
bit by a
him
shark.
don't give him something else to think about.
I just try not to think about that, honestly. I have it. It'll like sink into your mind when you're out there, and then it's like, oh, maybe I just shouldn't think of that. The law of averages. If there's more than one or two people out there, then
yeah, they're getting screwed, not you.
Yeah.
You know, James Schramko,
no.
someone that we talk about not too much anymore, but he has like business coaching and stuff. He has a book called Work Less, Make More that I highly recommend for most people. But he's a big surfer. He's Australian.
Well, it's like we talk about, like jujitsu is very like similar to business in the sense that you're learning a lot of the same principles, and they apply to surfing too.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. It just, persistence is what's going to make the biggest difference.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, just got to keep showing up, keep hitting those waves, and yeah, some days you fall, some days you get no waves, some days you get no sails.
Yeah, but it's all about that one that you get, bro. That's the
that
That's what keeps you coming
$89,000
back.
wave.
Exactly.
That's like getting that. I don't even know. I don't even know surfing terms. But anyway, we're getting a bit off track here. We're at the 50-minute mark. So what do you think, Joe? Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I gotta get going. We could wrap it up. But someone asked, "What's next? Where do you see yourself in 3 years?" Did you answer that?
We did
yeah,
that.
you did.
You said, "Well,
Yeah.
I don't know
I
if you
don't
meant like physically or
business wise. I'm still going to be doing online business for sure. It's the only way.
Yeah.
I don't know if
mean,
it'll be
now's a
high
good-
ticket drop shipping or what it will be, but it's going to be something I can do for my laptop.
Yeah, I think you got to take some time though, and enjoy the sale, take it easy for a little bit, and yeah, I mean, the right opportunity is going to come. that wave is going to come,
That's
and
what I
are you
like
going to be
to
able
hear.
to hop on your board and
That's a good metaphor for it.
surf
That's
down to
why
success?
you got to be in the game, because if you don't know how to surf and the wave comes, you're not gonna be able to ride it.
That's it, man.
Or if you're sitting on the fucking sand,
Exactly.
you're definitely not catching the wave.
You got to get in the water.
We're out here on our boogie boards all day, just waiting for the next thing
Who
to
knew,
come.
man? Who knew that there was so much overlap here? These metaphors.
Anyway, that's it. Thanks, Todd, for coming along.
Yeah,
We
thanks
do
for having me.
appreciate. For people that are interested in building a high ticket dropshipping store, they should go to buildassetsonline.com. You can take it or leave it, but as always, take it easy.